I'm Jeanette Abrahamsen with Trade Hounds and Sparks IQ here at NAED National in Marco Island. And today I'm joined by Meggie Palmer,
Hi.
CEO of PepTalkHer.
Yeah.
And MC of NAED National this week. I'm so excited that we have you here.
Likewise.
And I'd love to start
Yeah.
by just asking, what are you doing this week at NAED?
Yeah. Well, this is my second year being with NAED as their MC for their event. So it's a delight to be here, actually. I always learn so much. And I was saying this morning, actually, on stage, one of the things that I learned last year at NAED was that last year they were predicting that they were concerned about electricity shortages because of the uptick in AI. And of course now, 12 months later, that was very prescient because, yeah, sure enough, everyone is now talking about the concerns about AI being sort of like, you know, a power guzzling tool, albeit a great tool for a lot of us. So it's always a thrill to be here to learn from the folks in the industry who are doing really amazing work powering America. So.
And one of the other big topics that you're here to talk about is empowering women in the field.
Yeah.
So what do you want people to take away from your presence here this week?
Well, we know that in this industry, it is male dominated. And even at this event, it is male dominated. They're awesome. A lot of allies in the room, which is great. But, you know, NAED does a really amazing job. There's also a women's specific conference, which is really great for folks. And I know this is something that you're passionate about too, is like getting more diversity into these industries, because we know across the board, no matter the industry, no matter the country, no matter the company, when we have diverse perspectives, companies are more efficient, they're more profitable, and they're able to handle challenges better. And so we saw this in COVID, actually, like companies that had diverse leadership teams were actually able to manage the uncertainty and the challenges that COVID presented better than teams that potentially all looked the same. Because when we have diverse perspectives in a room, we all bring different strengths and weaknesses to the table that collectively leads to a better outcome. So it's something that I'm really passionate about. I really believe in this, and always happy to talk about it.
And you founded an app called PepTalkHer.
Right, yeah.
So this was 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Tell me about why you started this app.
Yeah, so I spent 15 years as a foreign correspondent, originally in Australia, hence my accent, and then I worked for the BBC World and CNBC in London, and then eventually for the Financial Times in New York City, where I'm based today. And it's a long story, but at one of my jobs a long time ago, I found out that I was paid less than the men who I sat next to in the newsroom. And candidly, Jeanette, like I was just pissed. I was like really frustrated. I was like, what? I'm like a kid that I was born in the 80s and my parents were like, girls can do anything. And so I kind of believed the hype. And I just didn't think that this happened. And what I now know is that I was super naive, right? That there is a gender pay gap. It is around 15-ish%, a little higher depending on how you crunch the numbers. And actually that gap is much worse for folks of color. Right, it's significantly higher. So the white women gender pay gap is around 15%, but it gets a lot worse for other people. And I just didn't know that. I didn't know that, and I don't think it's right. I don't think it's okay. And so my mission is now really to try and change that. And so I do a lot of speaking. I work with companies supporting their talent. I do executive coaching, and my team is really motivated to try and move the needle on this statistic to make it better. In most Western countries, it is illegal to pay women less than their male colleagues if they're doing the same job, and yet we know this happens. And what's really interesting about the gender pay gap is that most of it's unconscious bias. So it's not like a boss wakes up and be like, let me screw over Sally today in favor of Saul. You know, like that's not really how it works. But there is this unconscious bias that creeps in bit by bit by bit that eventually adds up to being a significant gap. And here's an unfun fact for you. The gender pay gap actually starts in childhood. So there's been 3 studies in 3 different countries that have proven that little girls get less allowance money than little boys. Isn't that banana?
What?
Like that's like crazy, right?
I've never heard of that.
Isn't that, and like I have a son, I don't know if you have children or nieces or nephews or friends with kids, but like, of course folks love their children equally. And of course people wouldn't do that intentionally. But what we see happen is there's this perception that like, okay, I'm going to use gender stereotypes here. Let's say little Johnny is chopping the firewood or mowing the lawn. That's a hard job. But if Suzanne is setting the table or if Maya is folding the washing, that's like easy work because that's women's work, you know? And so again, there's this like maybe you're getting $5 for this and $4 for that or whatever the case may be. And so again, it creeps in. And so it's just really interesting. And I think it's important for folks to be aware that this is a challenge that can present. And so like doing pay gap analysis studies can be really important. And encouraging your staff to like really speak up and have candid conversations is really important as well.
So tell me about the app. I guess tell everybody else about that because I downloaded
The app, the PepTalkHer app.
I love it. So tell me, what is this app?
So basically when I found out that I was getting paid less, I was pissed, as I said, and I was like, okay, I have two options. I can like spiral and complain, or I can do something about it. I was like, I have to like pull yourself together, Maggie, and just like figure it out. And so I was like, technology will save the world. How can we use tech to close the pay gap? And I spoke to mentors at a bunch of different Ivy League colleges and they're like, girl, no, it's not gonna work. And I was like, well, let me try anyway. So we built this app. It's called the PepTalkHer app. We launched it with Vogue a couple of years ago at a big event. And basically, the way I describe it is it's like a Fitbit or an Oura ring. I wear an Oura ring. It's like a Fitbit or an Oura ring, but instead of tracking your health and your fitness, it tracks your career success. So that's kind of how I would describe it. And so it sends you a prompt once a week. It'll be like, Jeanette, what's up? What are you really proud of this week? What are you stoked about? Like, what do you want to remember from this week for performance review time? So maybe you'll be like, there was a team of 4 of us who went to the NAED event, or, you know, I hired 3 new interns, or I saved us a recruiting fee by suggesting a friend for a job. Like, how can you quantify your value and your success at work so that when it's pay raise time or promotion time, instead of saying, I would like a pay raise or a promotion, you can say, hey, here's the value I've contributed. Here's the dollar signs that looks like, that adds up to from a quantifying perspective. And here's why that makes me the best person positioned to continue to accelerate my career within this business. So it's helping people put meat on the bone. And also it's just a reminder. So we know that our brains are like hardwired for negativity. So if you get a negative piece of feedback at work, you'll be like, oh, this is the worst, and you'll like, if this happened to you, and you just spiral, right?
Yeah.
For a couple of days.
One bad critical note will kill like an hour's worth of praise.
Exactly. And so like that sucks. And so, but we know our brain is like a muscle. So if I want to get massive biceps, if I do Pilates once, that's cute, but like not going to work. But if I go to Pilates and I'm like flexing this muscle, okay, once a week, another twice a week, whatever, all of a sudden these biceps are going to get massive, like Arnie Schwarzenegger vibes, right? Because I'm flexing it. It's the same thing with our brain. We have to like flex it in the right direction. And so the PepTalkHer app is about like tracking your success, tracking what you're proud of, tracking the good things, tracking the positive emails, tracking the feedback, uploading photos of events like this. And I know you all do a lot of great travel, like tracking that, because you forget. Like, let me give you an example. Like, what did you have for dinner last Wednesday?
I have no idea.
Right. I don't know what I had for dinner last Wednesday, because like, we got a lot of stuff going on, right? Like, you've got schedules to juggle, you've got Netflix shows to watch, you've got friends to catch up with. There's a lot. And so our brains can't remember everything. And so we have to make it easy for our brains to remember the wins we have at work so that we shift our mindset. And then eventually that shifts our career, because we take control of our career instead of sitting in the back seat from a spiraling in a negative way perspective. We're like, no, let me get on the front foot here and let me put my best foot forward for this next career opportunity. So yeah, that's kind of the ethos behind the app.
I love this app. We have many women on the marketing team for Sparks IQ and Trade Hounds, and we talk about this concept a lot.
Right.
And I probably bother them because I say it all the time, like, quantify your value, write it down.
Yes.
And but we've just been doing it in like Word docs
Sure.
or like in a Slack channel. But I love this because it's such a systemic way of doing it, like organizing it and being conscious of it too, because I think even though it's something that as a team we talk about all the time, it's still having it organized in one place, and also in a place that has like really positive reinforcement. It's such a fun way to do that, because I think that is like the number one thing about that I've heard and that I give when I was a teacher too, for especially younger professionals trying to grow and justify why they deserve like a raise or a promotion, is like you have to come with quantifiable metrics.
You got to bring the dollars and cents, the data. Exactly.
What did you accomplish this year, and why do you deserve what you're asking for? And maybe it's, and I'm curious if you feel like if there's data behind this, or if it's just like my stereotype that I feel like women especially have to really do a good job of preparing for that conversation with
It's
metrics?
a great question. Yeah, well, and it's interesting you say that. So a friend of mine, Alex Carter, has written a great book on something adjacent to this. It's called Ask for More. And in that book, it's a negotiation book. And in that book, she talks about how language is important. So there is bias that exists when women are negotiating. So if I ask for a pay rise versus a male, my request is perceived differently on average by a male boss and a female boss than a male colleague, right? And so that sucks, but my attitude is it is what it is. So let's while we're waiting for this tiny incremental change, let's deal with what we've got. So we know that the bias exists because of the systemic patriarchal issues in society that we're coming up against. That exists, so let's be conscious of that. And one of the things that Alex talks about in her book is that collective language works much better for women. So if I walk in there and say, I'm amazing and I want this raise because I did this, you can totally do that. And they know that from the research, it's more successful if I say, I'm so proud of the work that I've done. I have managed this team and collectively we have achieved so much. It's been amazing. It's been percentage increase. It's been blah, 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 whatever. I'm really, really thrilled and excited to continue leading that team so we can continue the charge and the change. And I want to talk to you about what's possible compensation-wise moving forward. So it's like slight tweaks from the I to the we that Alex talks about in her book really shifts the success of a negotiation. So I think it's important for people to be aware of these tiny nuances, because if you can get a 2 to 3% better outcome, it's not nothing, right? All of these things add up. And to your point, the PepTalkHer app, we worked with a psychologist when we built that, because there is a theory in psychology called the nudge theory, which is like, you can't go from here to here in a day, mindset wise. You got to like, kind of like it takes a long time to turn a big ship. It's the same thing with our mindset. It's like going to take time, but it's those small incremental muscle flexes, if you will, over time that lead to huge change. And so that's really, and lots of people keep an email folder, a wins folder, or they have a Word doc. I honestly don't care what you do. The app is free. It's part of our impact work. If you want to use the PepTalkHer app, go for it. If you don't, I don't care. I just want you to track it somewhere, right? I'm here for your success, whatever that looks like. Just like make it a practice. Life gets busy, and that's why we built the app, because I wanted it to be, if you're on the subway or on the train or you're waiting for a friend, you can just be like, oh yeah, I just want it to be something that's just like easy and not like a punish to remember to do. So it's not meant to be onerous, but it's like, if you put one thing in a week, that's 52 things in a year. If you only do it once a month, it's still 12 things. That's pretty good. Like 12 pieces of data to like take to your boss and be like, yo, let's talk about this. It's kind of exciting when you think about it. Yeah.
I feel like our whole mission in Trade Hounds is very similar. And so I really appreciate what you do, because we also want to help people with their career path. And we have a feature called Compare Your Pay inside of the app that helps people see what other people are making in that area compared to your experience level and your title and all of that. And we provide some tips that are like, here's how you can use that data to then negotiate.
Yeah.
So in your experience, let's talk about some negotiation tips.
Yeah.
Because I know you also share that in the app. So when I download the app, there's a section that has like a link to negotiation tips.
Great. Yeah.
So let's talk about some of your favorite tips that you'd have for people out there.
So I think, the first thing is to track your success, right? Because you can walk in and say, I want a pay rise, but if there's no meat on the bone, if there's no data around that, it's very easy for them to say no. And then the second thing is, so you got to track your wins. That's the first thing. The second thing is you have to be good at your job, right? So if you are not performing, it's very difficult to ask for a raise. I'm not saying you shouldn't ask. You should still ask, because why not? YOLO, give it a red hot go. But like, if you are going above and beyond, that's hard to ignore. Right. The other thing as well is you have to actually make the ask. So I say to people, you need to be asking for a raise every single year. You might not get it, but you've got to ask the question every year. Because I'll give you an example. We have a community that people can become a member of. It's called the Mastermind. It's an amazing community of professional women, and we meet virtually and in person, and we talk about professional, personal and financial development goals, like people who are looking to find financial freedom eventually, kind of looking to kind of grow their mindset. And one of my clients in the mastermind said to me, she's like, I can't ask for raises. And I was like, why not? She's like, well, I did it once and it didn't work. I was like, oh, okay, when was that? And she was like, oh, that was 6 years ago. And I was like, oh, and then what happened? She's like, oh no, like that's it. I didn't ask for a raise again.
Yeah,
so she
scary.
asked, and 6 years, like we all understand that inflation is a thing. The cost of living goes up every year. If you think about a 2 to 4% increase of cost of living over 6 years, her salary was sliding back. So sometimes people feel guilty, in particular women who I speak to, they feel bad. They're like, I like my boss, I don't want to be mean, I don't want to ask for a raise. And it's like, well, actually, your boss, you have value. If you were shit at your job, you would be fired. Let's be honest. Like if you couldn't do your job, you're probably not working for a charity, so you're probably going to get fired. Right? Like that's just what it is. So if you're still employed, probably you're relatively to exceptionally good at your job. So let's understand the value that you have. And then the second thing is like your boss wants you to work hard. If you're paid well, you feel obliged to work hard. You're delighted to work hard. If you're paid poorly, you're like, oh, this is the worst. You muck around, you waste time. Maybe you look for another job. The other thing people need to realize is that like if you leave a job, that is annoying for your boss. It's annoying, it takes time, and it's expensive. So recruiting fees can be anything from like 10 to 30% of a salary. So if you're making 50 grand a year or you're making $500,000 a year, we're talking anything from $5,000 to potentially 6 figures to replace you. So sometimes it's cheaper for them to give you a raise than it is for you to leave the business. So understanding the fact that you actually have value and power in this relationship is important. I think reframing the negotiation is also important. For me, I had a very combative mindset about negotiation because my first memory of negotiating is with my dad when I was grounded as a teenager. So I thought that it was like, you have to be like, like give me what I want, because that's what I did as a 15-year-old when I couldn't go to parties. But actually, if we look at the definition in the dictionary of a negotiation, it's a conversation between two people or two parties, and the goal is an agreement. So if we think about that, so we're like, okay, a negotiation is a conversation. Okay. So like if you're introverted or extroverted, I'm pretty sure you can have a conversation. You might not like it, but you can do it. You have done it. You speak to your barista, you speak to the Uber driver, you have a conversation with your family. So if you can have a conversation, you can therefore negotiate. So like, let's demystify this idea that you have to be like on Wall Street to be a negotiator. Like, no, like all of us can negotiate. I have a 3-year-old and he was negotiating with me from about the age of 9 months. Like, wow, that kid was like, even just non-verbal cues, and he got what he wanted because he knew how to communicate with another party to reach an agreement, and he pretty much always gets the agreement that he wants. So we actually do know how to negotiate, and that includes the folks listening today, right? Like, whether English is your first language, whether you're junior in the industry, it doesn't matter. Like, you know how to negotiate, and you can do this, right? So have a conversation and prepare in advance. So I don't want the first time that you talk about having a raise to be with your boss. I want you to call your auntie, your uncle, your roommate, your best friend, your dad, whoever. I want you to call someone else, and I want you to do a mock negotiation, right? Like, I want you to say, like, we're going to pretend, and I want you to get them to go hardcore, and I want them to be mean to you, so that then that's the worst case scenario. Because then our brain is like, oh, okay, I can handle that. I can talk to my boss. They're a cool person. Let's go. You know, so that's kind of the way that I think about negotiation. The other point that I will make is that like preparation is really key. Like, it's so boring, it's so tedious, but like you really have to prepare in advance. So I always say to people, you want to be very clear on your 3 W's. So your wish, your want, and your walk. So maybe your wish figure is like $50 an hour or $75,000 a year. Whatever is this like OMG number for you, you get to put it out there. And then at the other end of the spectrum is your walk number, where you're like, you know what? If you can't meet me here, I might take the job, but I'm not going to be happy and I won't stay very long, right? So that's your walk number, where you either don't accept the job or you continue looking. And then your want number is somewhere in between. It doesn't have to be in the middle, but you just want it to be a number where you're like, you know what? This feels fair. Like, I feel well compensated. I want to work hard. And like, yeah, I'm valued for my work. So knowing those 3 numbers in advance is super important as well. So, you know, changing your mindset around negotiating, preparing in advance with your numbers and tracking those successes, and then making the ask at least once a year. Those are my top tips around, you know, a successful negotiation.
I think too, as you think about those, I love the 3 W's. Like writing them down is so important.
Totally. Putting pen to paper. Yeah.
It's so
surely.
important. Or in the Ear app, for example, putting them in the app.
Totally.
But just writing it down and having it ready to go,
Yeah.
because I think people get so nervous when they go into a negotiation with their boss.
Yeah.
Especially younger people, and I think especially women.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with printing things out. Taking notes, you can print out the app, have a notebook, that's fine. I mean, if I was a boss and someone came into a meeting with notes, I'd be like, yeah, let's go. They prepared. Like, I respect that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there's nothing to be ashamed of taking notes in, I think.
Or if you're on a Zoom meeting, like if you work remotely,
Yeah,
you just like have it up on your screen.
Around the laptop screen. Absolutely. And like, you know, I know we talked about off camera earlier, like mantras and, you know, having those reminders that can kind of get you into a good headspace. Having those stuck to I have those stuck to my laptop. Or if you have a label maker, if you're a nerd like me and you've got a label maker, print out your favorite mantra or your quote and stick it to your laptop. So subconsciously, you're picking up these signals that you're worth it, you can do this, you can ask the question. There's nothing wrong with asking. They can say no. You might be like, listen, I've crushed it at work this year. I did this qualification. I did this on job sites. I did this. I got this feedback. And your boss could be like, listen, that's amazing. FYI, we're laying off 20 people next week. You're not one of them, but we don't have the budget right now. Now that sucks, but that might happen.
Yeah.
And you have the capacity to hear that and be disappointed. And you can say, listen, I understand that's very difficult for you. I'm disappointed. Could we revisit this conversation in 6 months' time? So even if you get a no, you have the capacity to pivot that into continuing the conversation, right? And that's on you. Because I think a lot of people will be like, I want my boss to wait until they're ready to give me a raise. Like, your boss could be going through a divorce. Your boss could have a sick child. Your boss could be on a performance improvement plan and maybe you have one foot out the door. You don't know, and you can't control that. But you can control what are the next steps that you take, regardless of if you get a yes, no, or a maybe answer to that pay raise. You're in control of how you then pivot and continue to steer that relationship from there.
And I think having a concession plan is important too,
100%.
so the conversation doesn't end that fast. So preparing to keep the conversation going,
Nailed it.
instead of just saying like, here's my ask, and then you get a response.
You say, okay.
And then that it ends so quickly, but like preparing with like, okay, I understand.
Yes.
If this ask is too much, you know, can you meet me here, or could you consider this?
Yeah. Or what are some non-monetary benefits? So okay, the hourly or the annual rate can't go up. I've understood your reasons. They suck, but okay, all right. Could I get an extra week's vacation off the books? Would you be open to covering the cost of my parking? Can I go and do this qualification? Can I attend this conference? Would the business pay for me to do this conference? Like, what else is important for you? Can I finish work at 3 p.m. on a Wednesday because I have cello lessons, or I want to go and see my sick grandma? Whatever. But like, do the prep ahead of time and then ask the question. You know, like I had a staff member on my team at PepTalkHer come to me recently and she's like, can I flip my days? I want to take a week's vacation, so can I front load 1 week and then back load the other week? I was like, yeah, I don't care. Sure. So her pay doesn't change. She's happy. Plus she's figured out a way to get a week's vacation. Great. Fine. Come to me with a solution and I might say yes, right? And so it's the same with your boss. Come to them with solutions. Do the mental gymnastics for them. Make it easy for them to say yes, because they've got a lot going on too. That's the reality. Like, they do not sit there thinking about your career 24/7. I hope for a job and for a boss who does that. They do exist, rarely, but like, let's be realistic here. You've got to be the one who steers your own career.
One of my favorite things that one of my coworkers back when I was working in TV, one of the things she told me that she had negotiated in her contract, and I was like, I never thought that I could ask for this, how genius, is that she didn't want to work overnights.
Great.
I was like, that didn't cost your boss anything.
It was a scheduling
but
thing.
It's a massive benefit for your quality of life.
100%. I did the same thing. Not overnight, sadly. I have worked a few of those. But when I was a correspondent back in the day, but I asked one of my bosses, I asked for some ridiculous raise. He was like, girl, no. I was like, ugh. But I was like, can I have 2 weeks extra vacation off the books with a wink, wink, nudge, nudge? And he was like, fine. I was like, sweet. So then I had 8 weeks vacation instead of 6. I was pretty stoked. You know, I could go to Thailand with my friends or whatever. So I was like, well, so thinking about the non-monetary benefits, it doesn't really cost him much because everyone just figured it out while I was gone. To your point, it didn't cost them anything to not schedule your friend on overnights. But you got to put in the work to do that.
Right. Like, you have to be prepared to have that conversation to say, if I ask for money first and then they say no, or they meet me halfway and I still, you still want to ask for something else.
Yeah.
So you want to be prepared for like, what else do I want?
Totally.
I don't want to work overnights. So it was like 15 years into my career when someone said that, and I had been working overnights for like 15 years, and I was like, why did I not think of this?
Well, and also like, I mean, especially in these industries, like qualifications and like training programs, networking events like this, executive coaching, like a lot of our executive coach clients, our fee is paid from their company. A lot of people who are in our mastermind, the monthly fee is paid by their company. Right. because it costs them nothing to reimburse $100 a month. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, if that's going to keep you happy, someone else is going to build a community and support you and answer your questions and bring in amazing guest speakers to motivate you. Yes, we will pay $100 or $200 a month for you to do that. Sure. You know, so like, take advantage of that. And like,
or tuition reimbursement.
Tuition reimbursement, going to a short course, being sent to Tampa or Florida or Chicago for a conference, because you might meet someone and bring fascinating new insights back to your job site or your business or whatever the case may be, depending on your industry, right?
And I think framing that ask as like, this is going to benefit you, the boss, like this is going to benefit the company.
Yeah.
Because if I learn all these things, then I can help strengthen the company.
Absolutely.
So I think that's one of my favorite tips too, is anything you ask for, you want to put yourself in your boss's shoes and think like, well, how does it benefit them?
Totally. So if let's say if they send you to the NAED conference, it's going to cost them money. There's a fee, there's travel, etc. Plus you'll be away from work for 48 hours. Okay. When I come back, I would love to do a presentation on Zoom for 10 minutes to the team, teaching them the top 3 insights that I learned. And, you know, share the LinkedIn profiles of 3 interesting people that I met. Like, that adds value to a company and to a team. If let's say if you join the PepTalkHer Mastermind, maybe once a quarter, you host a roundtable with folks at your company, teaching them some of the really cool mindset hacks that you've learned, right? Or introducing them to some of the experts that we bring. You know, like, how can you, to your point, like, yes, there's a cost, but how can I leverage that so that it actually becomes a net benefit for the business overall? And that's the people that I see go from here to here in their careers quite quickly. They think outside the square, you know, and this is such a time of change and flux with the economy and AI. There's huge opportunity for innovation and new ideas. And so I would encourage you to form a relationship with your colleagues and your bosses to find a way where you can bring those ideas in a non-threatening way, because again, we know that there's bias that exists for certain folks in the workplace, but bring those ideas and see if people are open to them. You know, like, how can you raise these in conversation?
Or if you're, one of the other things I like is like, if you are in a job where you have the ability to ask for tools that can make your job more efficient or can make you better at your job, that's also something that I think you can ask for. Like, I want this software, or
absolutely, or can we go from the gold version to the platinum, and it's going to save me 7 hours a week? Why wouldn't I pay that? Like, yeah, exactly. One of my team members asked me recently. She was like, "Can we, some AI software? I can't remember. It's for our sales process. Can we invest $35 a month?" I was like, "How much time is it going to save you?" She's like, "Maybe 7 hours a month." I was like, "Yes, that is an absolute no-brainer. Like, why wouldn't I do that? You know." So instead of getting frustrated and complaining, which a lot of us are wired to do, let's complain a little bit and then think about a solution, and then think about who could you actually bring the solution to, who would be open to having a creative conversation about it.
The other thing too that one of my favorite ones is like, don't expect the answer right away.
Yeah.
And also you can give your boss time. Like, I understand if you need time to think about this.
Absolutely. Let's circle back next week on Tuesday and we can talk about this further.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
So one thing you brought up just a little bit ago that I really want to dive into is the mantras.
Sure.
Because when I downloaded your app and I saw the profile, and there's a thing right underneath the profile picture that says like, put your favorite mantra or quote here. I felt like that was such a wonderful thing to add to an app, because I have a whole like folder in my phone of just mantras that I'll look back at. And when I need a boost, or I'll share them with my coworkers when they're feeling down, because I think they can be such a powerful way to give you the confidence that you need, whether you're heading into negotiations or just whether you're working your way through your career path. So I love that section of the app. And I wanted to ask you, like, what are some of your favorite quotes or mantras?
So in my PepTalkHer app that I have on my phone, the quote that I have in mine is "Leap and the net will appear." And I actually have that when I left journalism to start my own business. My former media colleagues bought me a Kindle cover that has that inscribed on it, which I love. And it's for me, it's a reminder that, like, if you want great things in your career, in your life, if you want to see great change, if you want to have a great impact, you have to be willing, in my opinion, to take a big leap. Whether that's leaping into a courageous conversation, whether that's leaping into someone's DMs on LinkedIn or something, asking for career advice, whether that's taking the leap into a whole new company who's offered you a promotion or new training opportunities. Like, taking those leaps is not easy. And yet I believe when you do that, in my experience, blessedly, I have been rewarded with a net that has appeared and caught me, and it has been a net positive. And so that's something that really motivates me. Done is better than perfect, I think, is something that as a perfectionist I've had to remind myself of all the time. And also, I have a young child, and also just reminding myself that, like, I've got to put my own oxygen mask on, and not feeling guilt about, I don't feel guilty when I, go away with my girlfriends for a weekend. I'm okay with that because I know my son is very loved and my husband is a great caregiver. So I also give myself permission to serve myself and my soul so that I can better contribute to my family and to my business and my team and the world. So I guess those are the things that kind of nourish me and keep me on the path that I'm headed.
So when I saw that part of the app, there are many women on my marketing team who are here with us today.
Yes.
And so we started talking about it this morning. And so I started saying, like, okay, so what am I going to put in that section? Like, what's my favorite mantra?
What did you put? Where did you land?
So my favorite one, and I have a lot of them, but I think the best one is stop saving sparkles for a special occasion.
Oh my gosh, I love this. And I think it relates to, like, literally the wardrobe or the cupcake, like, wear the sequins or have the sparkles, but it's also like, don't buy that fancy notebook and think you're going to use it one day. Like, use it now, or you've got that great idea and don't think, I'll raise that at the next team meeting. No, put it out. Just put that sparkly idea out now. Who knows? It could be exactly what someone else in the room needs to hear. Yeah, I really love that. I think it can be applied literally and metaphorically, which I like. So the only thing is, you're not in sequins today. Although you do look very sparkly in a non-sequin way.
I usually wear black every day, but now
so
at
this
least
is the
I put
blue
on some
sparkle,
color.
and we've got the gold, and it's looking amazing.
I put on some color.
It's a good reminder, though, isn't it? And I guess it's also like, when I think about that quote of "Don't save the sparkle," it's like, just smile. Like, like, it's so, like, we're having a rubbish day and things are tough, and it's like, you know what? Maybe someone else needs me to smile at them in the subway today, or maybe someone else in the coffee line needs me to just give them a little pep and, like, how you doing? Like, you just never know what other folks are going through, do you? And I feel like your mantra is a good reminder for me of, like, actually, what ripple effects can you have just in day-to-day stuff too? Yeah. I think sometimes when we think about impact and change and purpose, we think about, you have to run for Congress or you have to start a not-for-profit. But actually, those ripple effects can start in so many different ways, can't they? Yeah.
And I think especially something I have gone back and forth with a lot in my career, and I've been told, and it's kind of ironic because I think for women, you're either told you have to smile more, or you're kind of looked down on for being too bubbly, because you're not a serious professional.
Right.
And so I think it's a very hard balance for especially women to feel like, I'm a positive, loud, energetic person.
Yeah.
And so I've been told a lot to, like, if you want to
turn down
progress
your
in your
yeah.
dim that, be quiet, like, be more professional. If you want to advance in your career, many men have told me that that's, like, the one tip that they have for me to advance. And they're like, you got to, like, tone it down and act like all the men in the room.
I'm not sure if they're the right boss for you. That's when I hear that, I'm like, it sounds like maybe, because sometimes you have to change jobs.
Exactly. So that's my other mantra that I was going to say.
Yeah.
This is one of my other favorites. You don't have to prove your worth by staying in the wrong place.
Yeah, and I think this is a hard pill to swallow sometimes, because especially if you love an organization or you love a boss or you love your colleagues or you've been there 3 years, 13 years, 30 years, it can, in some instances, become like an abusive relationship for some people. Not always, but I've
had those.
It can become unhealthy, and cutting the cord is not easy. And so I always encourage people, you got to, like, let's try and fix this. Let's have some courageous conversations. Let's come up with ideas. Let's do the mental gymnastics. Let's see if we can corral our boss to go where we need them to go. And if it doesn't work, there's a decision to be made. You can choose to stay. That's an option. And you can also choose to leap, hoping that net will appear, right? And so, I mean, one thing that I always say to folks in the Pep Talk and Mastermind, I talk about this a lot, they're sick of me saying it, but, like, you have to have a plan B. And so even if you are absolutely crushing it at work and they have big plans for your future, you need to make sure that you have a network of people outside of that company, because you never know. There could be a scandal, there could be an economic collapse. We don't know what's going to happen, but what we can control is how networked we are, how supported we are with other folks, so that if and when, heaven forbid, we need an escape valve, we have people who can support us and work with us to make introductions, to kind of tell us about unadvertised job opportunities and things like that. So, connecting with people on LinkedIn, it is such an untapped resource. Like really like putting yourself out there. Anytime you meet someone at an event like this or whatever it is, like connect with them and build those relationships for the long term.
Most of the jobs that I've had in my life, I didn't get through applying online.
Well, that's right. 70% of jobs are never advertised. And guess how they happen? Relationships.
Yeah.
And a network, right? And so the network doesn't mean a pile of business cards like this. A network means you find a way to connect with them, whether it's text, email, LinkedIn, and you nurture. Like I encourage people quarterly to reach out to people who they value and respect in their network so that they keep them quote unquote warm.
Right.
Because if you haven't spoken to me in 5 years and you ask me for a favor in 5 years, I might do it. But it's a lot easier for me to say yes straight away if you contact me 2 or 3 times a year, send me interesting articles, say, isn't your kid so cute? Like whatever, like just find a way to connect with people. That can be really, really beneficial too.
And I think something else is people inside of your current company too. You never know where people are going to end up years down the road.
Point. Yeah, totally.
And I think when I look at what I love about my team so much is that they're so positive.
Yeah, it's like, well, you've cultivated that as a
You're
leader,
so nice.
to be fair.
I think I'm just lucky to I think we attract each other, like all
lucky?
the positive. I am.
As my grandmother would say,
Fortunate.
the harder you work, the luckier you get. So let's quote Betty today.
Mantra. Yes, that's another good one.
Yeah.
Because they all work so hard.
And so do you.
And I do too.
Kudos.
I work I love working, honestly, and I work so hard.
Yeah.
And I think it's like you don't realize that people are watching you.
People are watching.
People are always watching. And if you come to work and you're grumpy and you're in a bad mood all the time and you have a bad impact on the morale, you're a lot less likely down the road to have somebody think of you to say, oh, you know who I want to hire for this?
Totally.
That person. And that's happened a lot with the team that we have here.
Yes.
It was like, they didn't apply for jobs that were open. It was like, oh, you know who I need to hire? This person, because they were so not only talented and hardworking, but their impact on the morale and the culture was so significant, and it was so positive that it made me want to be like, let's hire these people. And I think that's something people should keep in mind.
Totally.
Like I'm not saying to never share if you're in a bad mood or never vent. I mean, you have to, vent a little.
It's the attitude that folks remember.
But you have to treat people really well and
You
respectful because that makes a huge difference. And that could, every time I've improved in my career, it really has been because people who worked with me before were like, oh, you know who would be great in this team? That person. So it's not just skills. It's also a huge part of it is how you treat people. And it will come back later in your career. I think that's massive.
I love it.
Okay, so one more mantra.
Okay.
This one I think is really important, and I think especially for women because of the imposter syndrome issue that I know we all experience.
Sure.
It feels scary because it's unfamiliar, not because you're incapable.
Totally.
So as you move through your career, understand that you might be afraid and it might not feel you might not feel that thing you envisioned. You would feel all the confidence in the world.
Totally.
But I think that's okay. So do you want to speak a little, give some advice to women about that?
I think competence grows confidence, right? To your point, when you first start, it's like bring it back to when we were all kids. For those of us who learned to ride a bike, the first couple of times were a disaster and very painful and a lot of grazed knees, we had the training wheels and it still didn't quite work and it's all very awkward. And then when you get it, it's such a joy. I love city biking around New York and Brooklyn where I live. I just love it. And it's just that it brings me so much joy to do that. And yet when I very first started all those decades ago, of course it was a very painful, very awkward, sporadic process. And it's the same thing in our career. If you're starting out as a journalist like we did, if you're starting out as a builder or an electrician or a roofer or a lawyer, whatever, the first couple of trials, the first couple of roofs that you build, the first couple of plywall things that I don't even know, I'm not very good at these things. The first couple of times that whatever it is, do that skill, hopefully you've got someone there who's going to help you and fix it and whatever. And then you'll realize, you don't do it this way, you do it that way. Or you lay the cement first and then you do this. Or you never do that and you don't use that brand because it doesn't work. It's trial and error. They can teach you a lot in your courses or your colleges or your universities. But the reality is the school of hard knocks is where it's at. And having grace for yourself. Just being I'm not a brain surgeon. thankfully. So like if I was a brain surgeon, it would be pretty bad if I had a bad day at work. But like the reality is most of us are not literally saving lives on a day-to-day basis. So if we have a bad day, it sucks. And obviously, hopefully it won't happen again, but it's not the end of a world in my case. Different for folks who are in the medical profession. But for a lot of us, it's not the end of the world. And the sun will rise tomorrow and we will have another try. And hopefully we have bosses and mentors who are graceful too and cut us some slack and support us in that journey. But just knowing that, like, by the way, everyone else is figuring it out too. Politicians, fancy CEOs, the big influencers that you see, like, they also do not really know what they're doing. They're also just figuring it out. Like I feel like I had that penny drop moment maybe 10 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. I was like, oh, what? Because I think I just thought other people had this formula and they just figured it out and everything was perfect.
Become an adult and then you're like,
and actually, it's an ongoing process, you know? And like, I think I know stuff. And when I'm 80, I'll be like, girl, you knew nothing, obviously. So it's like, it's a journey. And, you know, actually speaking of mantras, maybe to round us out, I think like one of my favorite quotes is also, the journey is the destination.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And it's just like, your first week on the job is your first week on the job. And like, enjoy it, because you won't get another first week on your job again, you know? And the first time you lead a team is the first time you lead a team. And you'll be terrible. And then you'll fix it and someone will give you bad feedback and then you'll learn and you'll get better. And actually enjoying that journey process, the highs and the lows, you have to, because who knows when you'll get to this eventual destination that you're looking for. But I just find like if you can be in that moment and enjoy it, it's a lot easier and a lot more fun along the way, you know?
Is there anything else that you feel like we haven't talked about yet that you want people to take away from speeches here? Or
I just think, you know, I think the work that everyone is doing in these industries is crucial. And to the point of Roy, who we heard earlier, who spoke about the power of branding and marketing, the reality is that all of us have a part to play in a bigger picture. And in this particular instance, he was talking about folks working in the electricity space. And he's like, you are not a middleman or woman for the electricity space. You are actually a part of powering America. And I think that's such a great point, right? So if you're in the building trade, you are not a builder. You are actually building the legacy for a family, or you are creating a new community. You are increasing the value of a suburb. Like it's just thinking about like, what is that higher purpose for you? Because for me, my mission is to really help support women to get wealthy. That's my ultimate goal, because I believe that wealth gives us choice and possibility. And so when I have a bad day, or I make a mistake, or I get negative feedback or whatever, I am buoyed by the fact that there's a bigger picture, because I know we will get tomorrow 10 DMs, we will have 30 new people joining the mastermind, we'll have 10 new executive coaching clients who we support in amazing ways and impact their lives. So remembering that bigger picture can help you sort of like even out almost some of the highs and lows along the way, but just enjoy it. Like, life is short. What a blessing to be doing interesting work, and enjoy the ride. And just know that there's people out there who can support you. There's communities, there's networks of folks who want you to succeed and support you, and don't be shy in reaching out to people.
So it's important for the worker, right,
Yeah.
to advance in their career, and we want to champion diversity and close the gap.
Yeah.
But why should the company care? How does it benefit an actual company or the boss to engage in some of these diversity initiatives?
You know, it's a great question. And sometimes people are like, what? Because we work with really large companies, right? We work with UBS Bank, we work with Dell Computers, we work with Salesforce, we work with, we work with really large companies and smaller companies too. But the reason they hire PepTalkHer for executive coaching for their leaders, or for high potential, we run like 6-month, 12-month high potential programs. We do one-off workshops. We work with a lot of employee resource groups. The reason companies invest in us to invest in their staff is because companies know the brain drain is real, right? And the generation coming up doesn't want to sit around in a job for 40 years. They will leave at some point. But the companies we work with are like, well, we would prefer they stayed with us for 4 or 5 years rather than leaving after 18 months. Because if they can retain those staff for longer by professionally educating them, by personally developing them, by making them feel invested in, by making them feel seen, by helping them build community within a company, that is extraordinary. I'll give you an example. We work for a very large consulting firm. We run a 12-month leadership program for some of their women leaders. They were having an attrition rate of about 25%, so people were turning over quite quickly. We did a pilot program. Within 12 months, we got that down to 4.5%. Because people felt valued, and people want to feel like their company sees them. Yes, the CEO can't call them every day. Okay. But if you say, hey, we see your potential, we want you to have a future here, let us invest in an executive coach for you, let us put you through this program, whatever it is, these people feel more valued. They are also higher skilled. So they're serving their clients better. They're communicating with their leader better. Their leader isn't wasting as much time on the one-on-ones because all of a sudden they're more succinct, they're more to the point, they get more done, they're more productive. So employers of choice is typically who we work with, and they see the value. They know that if they've got happy staff, they will stay longer, they will get better results, and the culture will be better. So that is what, those really high-performing companies, that is why they spend the money. Not because it's cute, not because they can afford it, but because it yields results. And to my point earlier about the fact that it costs companies so much money to recruit, if you can stop 20 people leaving, you have saved multiple six figures, because there's 20 times 10, 20, 50 grand of recruiting costs that you're now not paying. So it's very easy to actually prove the business case to invest in staff so you can retain them for longer. Like, retention of staff is a real challenge, particularly, and as it speaks to trades, like when you've got niche expertise and niche skills, it takes a long time to train people up, not just in the way that the business process works, but like those specific skills, and finding talented people can be really, really challenging. So that's why companies tell us that they work with us, and we prove that with the data as well. But we're really proud of that, because we upskill people, which means that they get better results. So it's just this whole flywheel of positivity. Yeah.
Well, I can't thank you enough for your time.
Pleasure,
thank you
course.
so
You're
much.
welcome.
And I'm on the app.
Great.
So
We'd love to see
I appreciate it. I will be filling it out and
connect with me on
quantifying my
LinkedIn.
Say
Say hi.
connecting with you on LinkedIn,
Yes.
and I'll keep networking with you as well.
Yes, we'll stay in touch every quarter.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was such a pleasure to get to meet you in person.
Well. You as
Thank
well.
you.
Thanks
Have
for
a
the
great
work that you're
day.
doing.